Ladies and gentlemen, trust is a delicate thing, isn't it? We speak of it as though it were a solid object, something to be built, maintained, even broken. But trust is not a thing, it's a movement, a never-changing rhythm between people, a silent agreement that says, I see you, and I believe in you. From the moment we are born, we are fed a quiet but persistent myth, that to be strong is to be self-sufficient. We are told that independence is the ultimate goal, that success is measured by how little we need from others. The heroes in our stories stand alone, the self-made individuals who rise above obstacles without ever leaning on another. And so, we adopt this narrative, believing that to ask for help is a sign of weakness, that to rely on others is to diminish our own worth. Yet, if we take a step back, if we strip away the layers of conditioning, we begin to see that life does not function in isolation. Nothing in nature thrives alone. The tallest trees are not solitary, their roots intertwine beneath the earth, sharing nutrients, supporting each other against the wind. The rivers do not carve their paths without the guidance of the land. Even the human body, which we so often take for granted as an individual entity, is a network of cells, each performing a role, each dependent on the whole. Why then, do we insist on viewing ourselves as separate? Why do we resist the very thing that makes existence possibly connection? The idea of self-sufficiency is a mirage, a construct that crumbles the moment we truly examine it. No one exists in a vacuum. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, the technology we use, everything is the result of countless hands, countless minds coming together. Even our thoughts are not entirely our own. They are shaped by the books we read, the conversations we have, the wisdom passed down through generations. And yet, we hesitate to admit our need for others. We hesitate because we have been taught that to need is to lack. But this is where we misunderstand the nature of strength. True strength is not found in isolation, it is found in the willingness to be part of something greater than oneself. It is found in the courage to lean, to trust, to acknowledge that we are not islands but threads in an intricate tapestry. When we embrace interdependence, we open ourselves to a different kind of power, a one that is not rooted in solitary resilience but in shared experience. Think of the moments in life that hold the most meaning. Are they the ones where we stood alone, refusing assistance, proving our independence? Or are they the moments when we connected, or when we reached out and found another hand waiting? To deny our need for others is to deny our very nature. We are social beings, woven together by unseen bonds. And the paradox is this: the more we isolate ourselves in an attempt to be strong, the weaker we become. The mind without conversation becomes stagnant. The heart without companionship grows weary. The burden carried alone feels heavier than when it is shared. But when we step into the truth of our interconnectedness, we find relief. We find that asking for help does not make us lesser, but more complete. We find that trust is not a risk, but a bridge, a one that leads not only to support but to understanding. And when we offer our own help in return, we strengthen that bridge, reinforcing the foundation upon which all relationships stand. This is not to say that independence has no value. It does. But independence should not be mistaken for isolation. The greatest strength is in knowing when to stand alone and when to stand together. It is in the wisdom to recognize that self-sufficiency is an illusion, and that true fulfillment comes not from shutting the world out but from embracing it fully. So let us let go of the fear of dependence. Let us unlearn the falsehood that needing others is a flaw. Instead, let us see it for what it is, a fundamental truth, a beautiful reality. Because in the end, strength is not about how well we can survive alone. It is about how deeply we can connect, how openly we can give and receive, and how willingly we can step into the vast, intricate web of life. Trust is often misunderstood. Many believe it is something that can be demanded, something that can be secured through force or expectation. But trust does not work that way. It is not a currency to be traded or a contract to be signed. It is something far more delicate, far more fluid, a dance, a movement between people that cannot be rushed or controlled. And at the heart of this dance lies vulnerability. We are taught to guard ourselves, to hide our uncertainties, to project an image of strength at all costs. The world rewards confidence, decisiveness, and control. And so, we wear our masks, we build our walls, believing that to reveal our true selves is to invite harm. We fear that if we expose our weaknesses, others will take advantage. If we admit we don't have all the answers, we will lose respect. If we ask for help, we will be seen as incapable. But in doing this, we miss something fundamental. Trust is not built through perfection, it is built through honesty. It is not about proving we are invulnerable, it is about showing that we are real. When we allow ourselves to be seen, and not just in our strengths but in our uncertainties, so we invite others to do the same. We create a space where authenticity is welcomed, where openness is not a liability but a bridge. Asking for help is one of the most profound ways we can practice this openness. Yet, it is one of the hardest things for many to do. There is a deep-seated belief that self-reliance is synonymous with strength, that to need others is to be deficient in some way. But look closely, and this belief unravels. The greatest achievements in history were never the work of one person alone. Every innovation, every discovery, every masterpiece was shaped by collaboration. The strongest leaders are not those who pretend to know everything, but those who surround themselves with people who can fill the gaps in their knowledge. Strength is not about standing alone, it is about knowing when to reach out. And something remarkable happens when we do. When we ask for help, we are not just receiving, we are also giving. We are giving someone else the opportunity to contribute, to feel valued, to strengthen the bond between us. People do not trust those who are closed off, who never show vulnerability, who never admit fault. They trust those who are real, who are willing to say, "I need you." Yet, this is where fear arises. What if help is not given? What if we expose our need and are met with rejection? These fears are understandable, but they should not prevent us from trying. Not everyone will respond with kindness, but that is not a reflection of our worth. It is simply a sign of who is willing to join us in the dance of trust. Some people are not ready, and that is okay. The ones who the ones who meet our openness with openness of their own are the ones who truly belong in our circle. To cultivate trust, we must be willing to risk. We must be willing to show our unpolished selves, to admit when we do not know, to lean on others when we cannot stand alone. This does not make us weak. It makes us human. And in that shared humanity, we find connection. So we must step forward, unguarded. We must ask when we need, offer when we can, and recognize that trust is not a possession to be claimed but a rhythm to be embraced. Vulnerability is not the enemy of strength, it is the foundation of it. And when we learn to move with it, rather than against it, we find that trust is not something we chase, it is something that naturally takes root in the space between us. Trust is not a solitary act. It does not exist in isolation, nor can it be cultivated in a vacuum. It is a reflection, a mirror held between people, showing us not just who they are but who we are willing to be. When we extend trust, we create the possibility for trust to be returned. When we reach out, we invite others to do the same. And in this exchange, we shape the world around us. Yet, many hesitate. There is a deep-seated fear that trusting others is a gamble, that opening ourselves up makes us vulnerable to disappointment. And in truth, it does. Trust carries risk. There will be moments when it is broken, when expectations are not met, when we are left wondering whether it was foolish to extend ourselves. But this risk is not a reason to withhold trust. It is the very reason trust matters. It is not meaningful because it is certain, it is meaningful because it is given despite uncertainty. Consider the relationships that have brought depth to your life. Did they grow from suspicion, from walls carefully maintained? Or did they take root in moments of openness, in small acts of faith, in the willingness to believe in another person? Trust does not emerge fully formed, it is nurtured through experience. And every time we offer it, we send a message not just to others, but to ourselves about the kind of world we want to inhabit. If we approach life with guardedness, assuming that others will fail us, we create a reality where connection is scarce. But if we choose to believe in the goodness of others, to offer trust before it is proven, we create space for that goodness to flourish. This is not Macron vete copyright, it is an understanding of human nature. People rise to the level of trust they are given. When we are believed in, We often become more trustworthy when we feel valued. We seek to live up to that value. And this cycle extends beyond individuals. It shapes communities, workplaces, even entire societies. A culture of suspicion breeds more suspicion. A culture of trust creates the conditions for cooperation, for kindness, for growth. It is a simple but profound truth. The way we treat others influences the way they treat us. But trust is not just about others, it is also about ourselves. When we refuse to trust, we do not just keep people at a distance, we also reinforce our own fears. We tell ourselves that the world is dangerous, that people cannot be relied upon, that we are alone. But when we take the leap, when we extend trust despite the risk, we challenge those fears. We allow ourselves to see the world differently, and not as a place of inevitable betrayal, but as a place where connection is possible. Of course, trust must be given wisely. It does not mean ignoring red flags or allowing ourselves to be taken advantage of. But it does mean leading with openness rather than fear. It means recognizing that, while not everyone will honor our trust, many will, and those who do will help us build the kind of relationships, the kind of life, that is rich with meaning. So when we hesitate to trust, when we hold back out of fear, we must ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to live in? One where everyone is guarded, afraid, unwilling to reach out, or one where people believe in each other, where trust is extended not because it is always safe, but because it is necessary. The world reflects back what we offer it. If we want trust, we must give it. If we want connection, we must seek it. And if we want a world where people are willing to believe in one another, we must be the first to take that step. Strength is often misunderstood. We are conditioned to believe that it means standing alone, never bending, never showing signs of struggle. From an early age, we are taught that to be strong is to be unshakable, to rely only on ourselves, to face every challenge without faltering. And yet, if we look at the natural world, we find a different truth. The tree that refuses to bend in the wind does not endure, it snaps under pressure. The river that refuses to change its course is eventually blocked. Survival, resilience, and true strength are not found in unyielding resistance, but in the ability to adapt, to seek support, to move with the forces of life rather than against them. There is a paradox here, one that many struggle to accept. Strength is not about never needing help, it is about recognizing when to lean on others. It is about knowing that no person exists in isolation, that no one achieves greatness without the hands of many shaping their path. The strongest people are not those who carry their burdens alone, but those who have the wisdom to share the weight. Yet, for many, asking for help feels like failure. There is a quiet shame attached to the idea of reliance, as if needing support is an admission of weakness. But this belief is not rooted in truth, it is a distortion of what it means to be capable. Confidence does not come from pretending we have all the answers, from convincing ourselves and others that we are invulnerable. It comes from the assurance that we do not have to do everything alone. It comes from understanding that strength is not diminished by seeking help, but enhanced by it. Think of the moments in life when you have felt truly strong. Were they the moments when you struggled in silence, refusing to let anyone in? Or were they the moments when you allowed yourself to be supported, when you trusted someone else to stand beside you? Strength is not found in isolation, it is found in connection. It is found in the ability to admit, I cannot do this alone, and in the courage to let others in. This is not an easy lesson to learn. It requires unlearning years of conditioning, years of believing that self-sufficiency is the ultimate goal. But the reality is, no one is truly self-sufficient. Every success, every achievement, every moment of growth is shaped by countless influences: mentors, friends, family, strangers who offered guidance at just the right moment. To recognize this is not to take away from our own efforts, but to acknowledge the interconnected nature of existence. Some might argue that relying on others makes us dependent, that it weakens our ability to stand on our own. But this is another illusion. A strong structure is not made weaker by the beams that support it, it is made more stable. A ship does not become less seaworthy because it has a crew rather than a single captain. Strength is not about standing alone in the storm, it is about knowing when to hold on to the hands that are reaching for us. And when we allow ourselves to lean on others, something remarkable happens. We do not just gain strength for ourselves, we give strength to those around us. We create a space where trust can grow, where others feel safe enough to lean on us in return. We become part of something larger, something more enduring than solitary resilience. The rigid tree breaks in the storm because it refuses to move, refuses to acknowledge the forces around it. The flexible tree bends, sways, and in doing so, survives. It is not weaker for yielding, it is wiser. And so it is with us. True strength is not in resisting support, but in embracing it. It is in knowing when to stand firm and when to lean, when to push forward and when to rest. It is in recognizing that we are not meant to go through life alone. Trust, vulnerability, and strength are not separate ideas but interconnected forces that shape our relationships and our lives. The illusion of self-sufficiency fades when we recognize that true resilience comes not from standing alone, but from embracing our need for others. Trust is not built through control but through openness, through the willingness to extend a hand before certainty is guaranteed. When we ask for help, we do not diminish ourselves, we invite collaboration, deepen connections, and create space for mutual growth. The world reflects what we offer it. When we trust, we allow trust to return. And in the paradox of strength, we find that bending does not mean breaking, and leaning on others does not make us weak. It makes us whole. To live fully is to move with this understanding, to give, to receive, to let go of fear, and to step into the vast and beautiful web of connection that sustains us all. The irony of strength is that it is not found in never falling, it is found in knowing who to reach for when we do. So let go of the illusion of self-sufficiency. Trust that in asking, you are not taking, but giving. And in the end, isn't that what we all want? To give, to receive, to belong? Thank you.